Had a special delivery today. I'm gonna open this thing up, see what's inside. Here it is. Boy, y'all know what time it is today. Got that Cajun bait, the Zydeco chop chop, and we're gonna be doing some baby backs. Alright, we about to get started. Typically what I do on my ribs, the first thing I do is I rub them down with some yellow mustard. That helps the seasoning to stick better. And the thing about the yellow mustard is it doesn't add any mustard flavor to it. The vinegar, to my understanding, helps to tenderize the meat a little bit. But as far as it tasting like yellow mustard at the end, you don't get any of that flavor. So I'm fixing to go ahead and rub them down real quick. Then I just rub them down like this. Just get a good coating all over it. Can't really use too much. Now, one thing I want to point out, my dad talked about the other day about taking the membrane off and using some catfish skinners and just peeling them off. I've done it with and without, and I don't really notice a big difference. I know when I leave them on, and this may be a personal preference or whatever, but I leave them on there, and after they've smoked and everything, they're super crispy, and you can peel them right off as you eat. You don't have to eat it. I eat it. It actually tastes really good to me. It's kind of like a crispy, it's not quite like a pork rind, but something along those lines. It's good. I like it. The guys I work with, they feel the same way I do. So, you know, if you want to peel it off, peel it off. If you don't, it's not going to ruin your ribs, I promise. Alright, so I'm doing two different seasonings on each slab. And the first thing I'm going to do is my Cajun bait. Now, anybody who's tried this, you know how flavorful it is, how good it is. It does have a little bit of heat to it. It's not bad. It's actually a very pleasant heat with the sweet Creole blend, the garlic. I'm going to put some of it on there as well. It's got a little bit more heat to it. Now, a lot of people are probably going to scream at me about it, but I'm not going to use the jalapeno blend because it sure enough is hot. If you like the heat, throw some of it on there. It'll be great. You'll love it. For me though, I like a little bit of heat, but not a whole lot. So I'm going to use the sweet onion Creole blend, sweet Creole onion blend, and a little bit of the garlic. Now, my wife Beth, she doesn't like the heat. She likes a good sweet rib. So on hers, I've got some of this that I found at Kroger in the clearance section, 3-beer lemon spice rub. I've used this before at the fire department, and it's actually a really good rib rub. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started now and put this, show you how much of this I put on there. Now I open it on up, and I mean I really put it on there. Now it's not important to put it on quite so heavy on this side, because you know it's the bone side. There's not a whole lot of meat on this side to eat, but you still want to get that flavor in there. So I give it a good coating anyway. And then we'll go back with just a little bit of the garlic on top, add a little bit of that pepper to it. Alright, I got one side done, and now I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. Alright, we're on this other side now. This is the meat side. And I always go really heavy on this side, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here. But I put it on pretty thick. Now, what's going to happen while you're cooking this, it's going to actually turn into a really nice bark, and it's really going to help to add those layers of flavor you always hear Big Al talking about. So put on what you think's too much, and then come back over it and put a little bit more on there. But you want a good thick layer on there. And then again, I'm going to go back over it with the garlic. Not quite as heavy because I don't want too much heat, but I definitely want that flavor in there. So, in that back slab back there, I've already got that 3 beer lemon rub all over it. I got a good coating of it on there as well. But the real star of this show is this Cajunbait over here. I'm telling y'all, this is some good stuff. So I'm gonna let this just sit for a little while. Let the seasonings really soak into the meat good, and I'm gonna go get the grill started. So here's my grill that I use. I don't have the high dollar big green egg or any of those fancy pellet smokers. I got the old char griller. It's about $100. I got it a couple of years ago at Kroger. It definitely does the job. But I'm gonna walk y'all through exactly how I set my coals up on the inside, and to get as much bang from a buck on my heat and my coals. Alright guys, this is how I set up my grill. I use this Royal Oak charcoal. Now there's a big debate about which is better, lump or briquettes when you're doing low and slow, but I'm not going to get into all that. I use both. They both work well. The lump's going to burn a little bit faster, but it's got a better flavor. But anyway, that's what I got on hand today, so that's what I'm using for this cook. What this is called, this is called the snake method, or the minion method. But what it is, I got it set up in a U shape around my firebox. This is my cold zone over here. This is where I'm gonna put the ribs. The idea is I got my chimney about half full, and I'm gonna burn it, get it started, and I'm gonna dump it right there on that side. And it's gonna burn slowly like a fuse all the way around. You can see I got some apple wood chunks in there to give it some smoke. And like I said, it's gonna burn very slowly all the way around, all the way across the end, and all the way down this way. And with the charcoal briquettes, I get about 3.5 to 4 hours out of it. I'm thinking with the lump, maybe you'll get 2.5 to 3. We'll find out today. But I got a metal baking pan right here in the middle, and you can use a full pan or whatever, an old pot or whatever you got. And I just got plain old water in there. And yeah, that's just gonna keep a little bit of steam in the grill. Help keep the meat moist. And again, there's debate over whether that works or not. You know, I've always done it and my meat always comes out great, so I'm gonna continue to do it. Sometimes I'll use apple juice instead of water. I've used Sunkist before. I've used lemonade. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. Those may add a little bit of sweetness to it, but bottom line is I feel like, you know, it keeps the meat moist. But anyway, that's how I set my grill up. So I'm going to get my coals started and get them going, dump them in, and then I'll bring the ribs out and put them on. Alright, I got my coals on. You can see how I got them all over there on the one side. Like I said, they're going to snake around, burn all the way around low and slow. So I'm going to get the rest of my grates on, get them scrubbed off, cleaned up good. I got a propane torch down here that I'm going to burn them off with, make sure they're good and clean. And then I always hit them with a coat of oil. This is some Crisco grill oil, and anyway, it keeps them from rusting so bad, keeps them where the meat don't stick so bad. We'll go get the meat and we'll get it on. Got the ribs on, got the fire going, got the water pan full. So the method I use, a lot of people call this the 3-2-1 method. When I smoke my ribs, I'll put them on here and I'll let them smoke for about 3 hours. After that, I'll pull them off. I'll wrap them in foil really tight. I'll put them back on for another 2 hours wrapped. Now, after that, I'll open them up. I'll leave them in the foil, but I'll open up the top, kind of lay it over, and I'll put some butter on top and some honey, and just kind of let that melt on, and just helps to just really contributes to that bark. And let that go for about another hour, and then they'll be done. So, all right, guys, we're about 3 hours in. You can see on my coals, I still got a little ways to go before it gets to the end. I got my ribs, man, they looking good. They got a good bark on them. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna spray them down good with this spray bottle full of apple juice. That's gonna keep them moist and give it a little sweetness to the bark. I'm gonna let these go for a few more minutes. I'm just gonna go get my tin foil ready. We're gonna wrap them up and throw them back on there for about 2 more hours. All right, now what I'm doing right here is I'm putting some parquet squeeze butter. A lot of people call this the secret weapon. I don't know how much better it is than regular butter, but you just put a bunch of it on there like that. I'm also going to do some honey. This is something I like to do. It gives it a nice little glaze, adds to that sweetness. And it's just all going to kind of melt in and just add to the layers of flavor on my ribs. I'm going to wrap these up and throw them back on there. Alright guys, I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret. A lot of people won't tell you this, but there's a really good way that you can save some money on your coals. Once you get ready to wrap them, throw them babies in the oven on about 225 and let them ride for 2 hours. There's no point in throwing them back on the grill and burning charcoal when all you need is the heat. With them wrapped up in tinfoil like they are, they're not going to be getting any smoke anyway. So all you need is the heat. So I'm going to let them ride in the oven for a little while. And when I get ready to open them back up in 2 hours, we're going to throw them back on the grill with a fresh load of coals and finish them off. Alright guys, we're fixing to do this squash. I got the squash all sliced up. Got a Vidalia onion in there with them, diced up. Now I'm fixing to put some salt and pepper on there. Alright, and now we're going to put some Zydeco chop in there. And a little bit of Cajunbait. Use garlic blend tonight. Alright, I got some extra virgin olive oil in there for good measure. We're going to get this thing on simmering. I'm going to give it a little toss around. Make sure everything's mixed in good. I'm going to put a lid on the top and get it to simmering for a little while. We got 27 more minutes on our ribs in the oven. I'm going to get them unwrapped, throw them on the grill, and let these cook nice and low and slow, just like the ribs. In honor of my mama, this is our other side that's going with our ribs tonight. Broccoli slaw came from Kroger. So easy. All you do, add some ranch dressing, mix it up, and man, it's good. Of course, I added a little bit of Cajunbait for some extra flavor. But this stuff is out of this world. Alright guys, here we are. We're back on the grill. Got a fresh load of coals over here going. We're going to let them run for about another hour. Add a little bit more honey, a little bit more butter. We're going to let them finish on up. Let that bark get good and sealed in. And I'll be back with you when we cut. Alright guys, we are all done with these ribs. It's been a long 6 hours, but it's going to be so worth it. I've just brought them in off the grill. They've been resting for about 20 minutes. Let's see if I can pull one of these bones out to show y'all how tender these things are. Look at that. I say these babies are done. We're fixing to sit down and eat.